All right, everybody. So this ZD engine thing kind of came up during Oshkosh this past year, where we saw these crates just being dropped off. It seemed it appeared at different booths, and now all of a sudden there's kind of a buzz around it. And as far as I know, the only person on the planet, this side of the planet, that owns one and is operating one is Matt or MMATT that you would find him on YouTube. So I wanted to
So
bring him
yeah,
on.
this is the ZD C100 engine. It's the Rotax 912 clone, 100 horsepower. And yeah, so far I'm loving it. So ask me whatever you'd like and tell me to point the camera at whatever you want me to, and I will be happy to oblige.
All right, so welcome, Matt. Tell everybody where you're at and and so forth. Where you're located.
I'm in Woodstock, New Brunswick, which is in Canada on the East Coast. I'm about 10 miles from Holton, Maine, so right close to the US border. And that that's where I'm located at the Woodstock Airport. The Anybody who cares to look it up, the identifier is CCD3.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I've been following you for a bit. You're flying a Zenith 701, and you have all these flying adventures around your home airport, and also like to get other people involved in aviation, taking them for first flights and all kinds of stuff. So happy to have you on, and also get your glean your experience, if you will, from this engine. So tell everybody what you were flying behind before this.
Initially, when I got the Zenith, it was a oh, you just cut out. You did too, didn't you?
I'm still here. I think the connection might be a little bit up and down because of your location, but I can still hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, the video cut out. That's too bad. I'm Anyway, whatever. So yeah, before I put this engine on, the Zenith 701 had a Jabiru 2200 engine, so
Okay.
85 horsepower, I think, and anemic would be the best way to describe its performance. It the like the Jabiru engines I feel are great engines on a fast plane, but on a slow plane they just don't have that low end torque or grunt to get the plane off the ground and get it climbing quickly. So I wasn't too impressed with its characteristics, and so I wanted something with more power.
Sure.
So what's the industry standard? What's the default for the Zenith 701, but the Rotax 912? So I was like, perfect, I'll put one of those on. And then I looked at the price. And I went, oh crap, there's got to be a better option out there. And sure enough, the ZD C100 popped up when I was looking for replacements, and it's a Rotax 912 clone.
Okay.
And it got it for a third of the price.
Okay.
So the prices have come up on these engines recently, but I was one of the first ones, as you said. I don't know if I was the first in Canada, but I was probably close to it. Somebody's got to be a trailblazer, right? Somebody's got to take that risk. So it's like, why not? I've got a YouTube channel. If everything blows up catastrophically, I get views, so it works out.
Oh, geez. Well, I'm happy that that hasn't happened to you. I think you said that you're approaching 50 hours or right around 50 hours now.
Just past 50 hours now. I'm getting ready to do an oil change, which is why the cowling is off. I'm not sure if I'll get that oil change in today or maybe later on in this week, but
Okay.
yep, getting ready to do an oil change on it. I have hit 50 hours. This will be the second oil change. And so far it's been running exactly like you would expect a 912 to run. It's got
Okay.
gobs of power, good on fuel burn, and reliable. I've had no issues. The only thing that kind of irritates me about it is carburetors, and there's no in cockpit mixture control. So when the temperature changes, I've got to come out and fiddle with the carburetors and rejet them or adjust the needles or whatever so that I get my mixture correct. And that, I mean, that takes, 25 minutes to half an hour to get that done. And it's a bit of a pain in the butt. So,
Yeah, so you've got a summer setting and a winter setting adjustment, kind of.
well, so far I've had a summer setting, I've had a fall setting, and a winter setting. So I've got three settings I'm dealing with at the moment, and I don't like that. So I'm gonna put an EFI on it.
Okay. Well, to talk on that topic for a minute, these are all pressure compensating carburetors, both from the Jabiru
Yep,
and then the Rotax, and they're all the
there.
same,
So
but
you
they're
cut out
within
again, but
a certain
whatever. I'm
window.
sorry for the crappy Wi-Fi here.
They
Yeah,
all
sorry. Go ahead.
they all have the same carburetors. They're all pressure compensating, right? But even within that, you're saying you have to do an adjustment within that window.
Absolutely. So they're the Bing carburetors that you would get right off of the 912. It's the exact same carburetor. And they do adjust for pressure when you're going up and down, but the temperature varies so widely in Canada. I mean, we can have minus 20 Celsius, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, like 0 or something, all the way up to 35 Celsius, which is over 100 Fahrenheit. So we have a really wide range of temperatures. And as you know, as a pilot, temperature is the thing that affects density altitude the most. And the carburetors just can't keep up with the temperatures. So
Okay. Well, we'll talk about the engine some more, and then we'll go back into the installation and your firewall forward. But
yeah,
as an engine itself, this is supposed to be rated same thing as 100 horsepower. Looking at it, other than it seems like the metallurgy they use is slightly different because I've seen it. It looks slightly darker gray than the lighter gray of a Rotax. Is
it
there
does.
anything else you can point out that looks or is different than a Rotax?
If the valve covers are different and they got a ZD instead of a Rotax, like that, like literally, if you were to put green valve covers on here that said Rotax, and I didn't know that they used a slightly darker paint for the engine. I don't know if that's paint or, like you said, just different metallurgy. If I didn't know, I couldn't tell you it wasn't a 912. Like
Okay.
it's exactly the same, right down to like the thread pitch and everything of all the nuts and bolts and everything. It's literally a clone. From
Okay.
what I understand, like if I blow a piston, if I don't want to get one from China, I can get one from Rotax and it'll fit in. Like it's the exact same dimensions from everything I've been told on it. So fortunately, that hasn't happened yet, and hopefully it doesn't.
Sure. Now, when you got this, you were one of the early adopters, like we just discussed. What were they offering as far as a warranty or whatnot, or what is a current warranty for this? All right, I'm gonna pop in here real quick to talk about our sponsors. As you know, I can't do this all on my own. We got to have somebody to help fuel that truck. We try really hard to work with sponsors that provide a good service and a good quality product. So let's talk about those guys right now. Dynon Avionics at Dynon.com, the premier provider of glass panel avionics systems for experimental and light sport aircraft. Wide Open Door Company at WideOpenDoorCo.com, your premier destination for high-quality doors, including aircraft hangar doors. Warp Drive Propellers at WarpDriveInc.com, providing quality, solid carbon fiber propellers for many light sport and experimental aircraft. And visit our website at experimentalaircraftchannel.com for new videos and easy-to-navigate playlists and so much more. Speaking of fueling that truck, if you guys want to join us on our Patreon page, become patrons of this channel, just search on Patreon for Experimental Aircraft Channel. Sign up. There's several different levels, so check that out.
That's a good question. I'm pretty sure it's 200 hours or 2 years.
3 years
It's
or
either 2 years.
something,
What's that?
or 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's a pretty decent warranty for an engine that, if it was brand new, is unproven, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if this was a brand new engine not cloned on anything, I mean, that's a pretty decent warranty for a new engine. So when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I mean, they must have some faith in it. And when you look around at other countries, there are a lot of other people running these engines over in Europe, and they've been reporting good results with them. So I figured, hey, it was worth a shot. Might as
Yeah.
well spend a little bit less money and see what happens. And so far, the gamble's paid off. I like it so far.
Have you flown many aircraft with the Rotax 912 to be able to compare sounds or startup or like smoothness?
Identical. Like
Yeah.
you couldn't tell me that this wasn't a Rotax 912. Like I said, if you had different valve covers on it, like it starts up the same. It warms. Actually, mine warms up faster, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
It cools just fine. It stays inside of its temperature range. It sounds the same. It's just as smooth. Like there's nothing to it that says to me, "Ooh, be careful and only fly over things you can land on." Like there's nothing out on it. There's no red flags that jumps out at me and says, "Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have bought this."
You mentioned that you ready for an oil change. I assume are you going to start tracking your oil changes and just start a history to have that in your logbook, if you will, just to see if anything develops?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yep. I take the oil filter apart and I check it for debris whenever I do the oil change. And of course, I check the oil itself and whatnot. I haven't gone so far as sending it away for an analysis, but there's nothing Nothing out of the ordinary in the oil filter. Little tiny specks of silver every now and then, but that's to be expected from anything, I think. Um, but there's nothing there that jumps out at me either. And yeah, like you said, I'll be keeping track. I think they recommend the first oil change is supposed to be done at 25 hours, which I did, and then after that they say every 50 hours. But I'm going to do mine at 25 hours again just this time because I like the interval of 50 and 100 instead of 75 and 125. I'm just a dumb pilot. I can't count very well, so I like my numbers around.
Yeah. Well, I would suggest if I will to go ahead and start doing an oil sample because it's not that much money. Plus, give you a real world comparison as you move through, especially being this is a brand new engine to all of us,
Right?
just to see what metals are floating around in there, if
Do
any,
you
right?
have somebody that you send your oil samples to?
I could recommend a couple
Yeah.
to you after the show
After
here.
we're done here. Yeah, send me a link and I will absolutely do that. That would be, you're right. That's a good thing to do.
Okay. Moving on into the installation, being that this is, as you say, a clone, it wasn't a big deal to get this re-engined on your airframe, right? Talk to us about that for a second.
Stupid simple, just dead simple. Because it's a clone, it was the Rotax firewall forward kit that I got from Zenith, and it just bolts on. It was easy. So we painted it lime green because we like green here for reasons. So this is the back part of the engine mounting. So this bolts directly to the airframe, and then this is where the rubber engine mounts are here, and then this ring attaches to the engine, and then you just bolt the two together, and it fit on just like it would on a 912. One of the things you have to do with the 912 when you use this kit, I probably can't see that, but the water pump in there has to be adjusted, has to be clocked to a different location, and that was it. Other than that, it was just like you would install a 912. So again, just follow the instructions, step-by-step guide, and it pops right on.
And I assume that you use the bed mount from Zenith here for this.
Um,
It,
what
it,
what do you mean bed mount?
in other words, it mounts to the bottom versus the rear ring, like a ring mount. I don't see. Yeah,
Nope, this is
it's
a
a
ring
bed
mount.
mount.
Yep, it's
It,
a ring mount.
it is a ring mount.
It is a ring mount.
Wow.
Yep, it's
Okay.
the updated one, not the bed mount.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yep. So yeah, it just goes. So it's kind of hard to see, but anyway,
Yep.
yeah, there's
Yep.
the ring there. Yep, and there's nothing on the bottom.
Gotcha.
So
Very clean installation there, Matt.
yeah,
So is there anything probably not out of the ordinary, but for a break-in procedure first start, or I understand these are started from the factory actually as an initial first start.
correct. Yep. So it came from the factory, already started, so already broken in. They said that all I got to do is, I think there were special instructions for the first 5 hours or something. Vary the RPMs, just don't keep it at a solid RPM for more than 10 minutes or 5 minutes or something like that. It's in the book.
Okay.
But very, like, it was very easy to follow. There was nothing, I didn't have to sit on the ground for an hour changing RPMs and letting it cool off and letting it warm up and all that stuff. All of that was done. You just bolted on and follow their simple instructions and fly it.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm happy to hear that you're having good luck with it so far and it's been absolutely smooth because I've seen your videos. You fly in all kinds of different environments and over all kinds of stuff. So, but at the same time, it seems to be pretty open. You have a lot of options there. It seems like there's always some type of little road or field or something around your area that you've got options if something happens.
I like to have at least something survivable underneath me whenever I fly. It's not always going to be something that I can land on with, zero damage, guaranteed zero damage. But I do my best to stay safe. And yeah, I'm lucky where I live is a large agriculture area around here. So we've got a lot of farm fields, a lot of farm roads. And then even with the forestry that we have going on, there's a lot of clear cuts out in the woods with lots of woods roads that are wide enough. So yeah, there's lots of good options around here for taking off and landing if I had to. And I mean, I do it on purpose most of the time just because it's fun, because that's kind of the whole point of having a Zenith 701, right? Is land wherever you want.
Sure, sure. Understood, understood. Back to the engine and kind of the last final questions for it. So
Sure.
far, of course, this is new. I would say 50 hours, you're still kind of breaking it in.
Yep.
Um, have you seen any oil consumption? And then what is the fuel consumption? What fuel burn look like?
Sure. So the oil consumption is minimal. When I did the first 25-hour oil change, I noted that instead of being right in the middle of the dipstick where it's supposed to be, it was down probably an eighth of an inch. So very, very minimal oil consumption. And I'm finding the same thing with this. I'm down just a little tiny bit. So every 25 hours, you definitely want to at least check the oil once. I'm kidding, of course. Check your oil every time you go flying. But yeah,
In
the
between
oil
oil
consumption,
changes, when you change your oil, check your oil level, right?
check it then just to make sure, right?
Just yeah.
And as far as fuel burn goes, you're going to want it in gallons an hour, I suppose. So right around 4 gallons an hour at the RPM settings that I sit at. I sit right around 5,000 RPM, and it's about 4 gallons an hour. So
Nice.
that's exactly what the Rotax manual says it should do. I didn't see a fuel burn chart for the ZD, but maybe I just didn't look hard enough through the documentation. But when I looked it up for Rotax, they say for the RPMs that I'm at, it should be 4 gallons an hour, and it's right at 4 gallons an hour. So it's
All right. So
exactly what it should be.
so next question, diving into the engine for a second. Have you crawled around this to see? Well, first carburetors. We'll talk about that for a second. Are they are they the same carburetors? Are they Bing carburetors? Or are they something else?
No, they're not Bing, but they're a Bing clone. They look at if you hold a Bing carburetor up to it, it's exactly the same.
Okay.
They don't have the word Bing on them though, so the factory that cloned the engine cloned the carburetors as well. But all of the parts are identical. I actually did rejet this, like I talked about earlier, because of the different temperatures, and I used Rotax Bing parts to rejet it and to change needle clips and stuff, and they fit right in perfectly. So it's an exact clone of the Bing whatever it is, not 54 but 62 or whatever it is.
Okay. Yeah, I just wasn't sure how many things or how deep like ancillary things that would bolt onto it might be, of the same or aftermarket or whatnot.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, even the oil tank, you can't quite see it here because of, but there's Chinese symbols on here, so that even the oil tank doesn't come from Rotax, it's from the engine manufacturer. But again, it's an exact clone, it's an exact copy of it.
yeah.
So all of the fittings all operate in there, no problem.
What spark plugs did it come with?
The ones that are supposed to be with it, I forget. But that was definitely something that they were NKG or NKG.
NGK, yeah,
NGK, yeah, yeah. I get my letters backwards, but that's
sure.
okay. Yeah, it was the proper NGK spark plugs. Here, well, you can look. Whoops, if I turn the camera on the other way, you can actually look at it. I just pulled one off.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I
You're poking
oh,
my eye out.
you're poking your eye out there. There you go, right down in there. So
Gotcha.
it's the NGK. It's a DCPR8E. There you go. You'll have to
Okay.
back that up if anybody wants that again.
And which this is not engine, but which prop are you running on this right now? Length and make.
Warp drive, 3 blade with the HPL hub or the HP hub,
Okay.
and it's 70 inches, I think,
Nice.
diameter. So it again. I just got it from Rotax. It's whatever their default propeller is for the 912 on the 9
Zenith.
or 7. Yeah,
Gotcha. And
got it
what
right
did
from
you
Zenith.
say that your climb performance is doing now with this 100 horse?
It goes up in a hurry.
Yeah.
um, I am getting between 12 and 1500 feet per minute. Um, that that's fast enough for climb rate, but what is more impressive to me is climb angle. And my
Okay.
climb angle somewhere around 35 degrees. It's very steep. It scares most GA pilots that I take flying with me.
Sure.
Um, with the angle that you get, the angle of attack with the pitot tube not being in line with the airflow, I don't even get a reading on the airspeed indicator when I'm climbing out. It
Oh
it says
wow.
zero.
So
I
you
always
don't like to
use
do
that
that for very
indicator.
long because that can drop off very quickly, huh?
It can, yes, yeah, but I mean, that took me quite a while to get to that point. I mean, I've got 50 hours on this engine on this airframe, and then probably another 200 or so hours on the airframe before that with the Jabru. So I'm quite comfortable with the airframe and what it'll do and what its slow flight and stall characteristics are. And there's a lot of warning before a 701 stalls out on you. So I'm comfortable doing that, but I certainly don't recommend it. Don't do that if don't climb so steeply that you don't have an airspeed on your airspeed indicator. But the angle of attack is so high, and the angle of climb is so high that it doesn't read. If I want maximum climb performance, I don't. It's zero for airspeed, and it
Awesome.
just goes up and up, and like it's so steep. So
Awesome.
yeah, very impressive.
Well, thanks for jumping in with me real quick on this segment here I'm doing on ZD engines to talk about your personal experience with the engine. And I'll check back with you again probably in a few months just to see how things are going. And
Sure.
yeah, for everybody new to Matt, check out his channel. Like I said, he does several adventures and does very good video capture and editing, by the way, Matt. So
Oh, thank you.
it's quite entertaining to watch. But yeah, Matt, thanks for jumping on today with us, and we'll catch up again soon, okay?
You bet. Thanks for having me.